Welcome back to the Sportsnaut interview. Today we are joined by Tyler Kepner, senior MLB writer over at The Athletic. Tyler, this AL West race, of course, went into the weekend with the Rangers and the Mariners. Rangers sweep. They go in a half game back. They come out 2.5 ahead. Tell me what you're thinking about this AL West race and how it's going to end up. Will that Rangers bullpen hold up, or how you see this thing playing out over the next 7 games?
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. I mean, Houston going up to Seattle, it's a little bit flipped there this year because the Astros always kind of had the Mariners number recently, and now the Mariners have done better against them this year. But both teams are coming into that one pretty cold. They've both are in danger of letting this thing slip away. But it's all right in front of the Mariners. They've got the games against Houston, the games against again against Texas at home, and they've got good pitching. I'm a little skeptical of their offense, but I do think that with those games at home, with the pitching lined up the way they wanted to, that Seattle will find a way to get in. And I guess that leaves probably Houston on the outside. It's hard to believe that would happen, but their pitching is not what it was last year, and credit to Texas for getting up off the mat when they had really frittered away that big lead they had.
How much of the Rangers' success? I mean, you look at Bruce Bochy, what he's been able to do, what he did in San Francisco, what he did in San Diego prior to that. How much credit you give him in taking that lineup with that veteran experience as a manager who's been and seen it all, and getting this team to play as well as they have down the stretch?
Yeah, I think that's it, right? I mean, they got some veterans and they gave him better pieces. And bringing in Bochy gives you a sort of a seriousness of purpose, and also, it keeps you maybe from panicking a little bit. I mean, because he's been through it. Talking to him at the end of August, just about how they were really struggling, but trying to have some perspective. Is this is what you want. This is why you love to play, to have this opportunity, and it doesn't matter that they lost a lot off their lead. They still had that opportunity. So, they had Scherzer there for a while. Now he's gone, but Valdi's back, and their stars have played like stars. And Bochy has been, a calming sort of steady presence, and that's what you need when things start to get sideways.
Let's switch gears now on the NL side. The wild card race there, of course, Cincinnati now faded away. Just didn't have, I think, the players they needed to get there, right? The depth they needed to get there as far as they go, as far as injuries as well, really hurt that team. But talk about the rest here. Talk about are the Cubs going to hold on there? What do you think is going to happen on the NL side of things when it comes to this wild card?
I think the Cubs will hold on. Yeah, I think the Cubs and Diamondbacks will probably join the Phillies as the wild card teams. Miami, they have done a great job this year. I kind of thought they'd be, a pesky good team that could finish a couple games over 500, and that's probably how it's going to be. But I would have thought they would have another big year from Sandy Alcantara, and he, he's out, and he wasn't his usual self. And Johnny Cueto hasn't done much. So give them a lot of credit for their other young pitchers stepping up, Skip Schumacher changing things there. But I do think they'll come up a little short. I just think Arizona and the Cubs are a little bit deeper all around than Miami. And Cincinnati didn't quite have enough, and San Francisco was playing way over their heads for a long time. So
Yeah.
that's how I think it'll shake out.
Interesting stuff. Let's touch on a couple stories from this season as we start to wrap it up here. And of course, the excitement of the pennant races. And of course, your book just from a year ago, the World Series, The Grandest Stage. Of course, it's a great book, by the way, to pick up as you head into playoff baseball and learn a lot about the World Series. But when you look at the stage this year, you saw so many of these teams spend money. You saw, of course, the Mets, the Padres, and the Yankees. All these different teams didn't work out. When you look back at 2023, the regular season, kind of what story emerges for you the most with a lot of these teams trying to build great lineups and just not being able to find it?
Yeah, I think the overall story is just how the game improved and got better through the pitch clock and a little bit more emphasis on stealing bases and getting away from the shift. We had anticipated all of that, and it's turned out to me to be best case scenario because it's made the game a little more exciting, and it's also really quickened the pace and gotten rid of something that nobody misses, which is that that dead time out there, right? Um, so that's been the overall story to me of the season. But yeah, it's been interesting, to look at these teams that had such big expectations and fell flat. I mean, the Mets and Yankees spending so much money not to make the playoffs. The Padres spending so much money not to make the playoffs. Um, but then again, you can't just you can't condemn the idea of spending money because the Phillies have a lot of free agents who have delivered and who've really turned that team and that town back onto baseball. And the Rangers certainly wouldn't be where they are without all the investments they've made in free agency. So it cuts both ways. You have to find the right mix and the right leadership. Some teams have and some teams haven't. The Mets collapse this year, I think, was really surprising to a lot of people. They looked really good on paper. They were an older team, of course, and some of that bit them, but it just didn't work out for them. The Padres, same thing. I mean, going 0 and 12 or whatever it is in extra innings, you can isolate that if you want. You can talk about leadership there if you want, but
Mm.
they should have been a lot better than they are. So those big high profile disappointments is something to remember from this season. And also, it's only the second time since the playoffs expanded back in the mid 90s that the Yankees and the Red Sox are both be home in October. So that's kind of nice to get some unfamiliar teams in there like the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, the Orioles, what a great story this year. And yes, the TV networks hate that the Red Sox and the Yankees aren't in the playoffs. But for those of us who just love the game, it's always good to see some new blood in there. You mentioned the pitch clock, the rule changes, the base size, all of those things that were instituted this year. And one of the things that I've been concerned with over time is just the overall health of baseball. I really felt the boost. I mean, even going to the ballpark and talking to fans, casual fans that aren't as crazy about the game as I am, and they seem to be maybe it turned the page for them a little bit, and they feel like the game is more in tune with the times. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, yeah. I think it going to games and watching games, it's sort of like, man, why didn't we do this earlier? Like, really, there's nothing, no drawback to it. I mean, it was a little difficult for some players to make the transition, but for the most part, they're creatures of habit, and once they get in the habit, they're fine. They're such good athletes; they figured it out. I don't know if there's anybody you can look at and say, "Oh, the pitch clock ruined this guy" or whatever. Like they adjust, and
Yeah.
it's so much better for the fans. You really felt it like early in the season when the normal rhythms of watching baseball, the little pauses, whether it's to have a conversation or look something up on your phone or whatever you would do to pass those, you know really those extra tedious extra seconds you can't do anymore because there's another pitch that goes by, and that's good. It keeps your attention. It keeps you focused on all the possibilities of what might happen next. Keeps you engaged rather than just checked out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us were skeptical over it, but then as we saw it and as we experienced it, we kind of got over it. Being a National League guy, I still sort of every once in a while have an inkling of missing the pitcher coming to bat. But after watching this full season play out, it's been fun and it's been great, I think, for the game. And we certainly I love the fact that baseball feels like it's been given a shot in the arm. So it's always great. Tyler, we appreciate you talking with us. What else you got coming up? I know I talked about the book. You're obviously going to be covering the playoffs. What's most exciting for you coming up here as we enter or get close to the postseason?
Yeah, I always like to see places that go to cities that haven't had that postseason excitement for a while. It really, it really comes out, and it's that bottled up sort of love that these fan bases have for their teams. But it's been dormant for a while. We saw it in Philadelphia last year. San Diego getting to the LCS was exciting. And so this year I hope the Orioles have a little bit of success and make a run because it's been a few years there, and that is such a cool downtown baseball venue. It's been around 32 years. It still hasn't hosted a
Crazy.
World Series. So, I mean, the idea that there might be a World Series there would be cool. Same thing with Seattle. They had one playoff game last year. They had a taste of it. Um, but, there's never been a World Series in Seattle. Milwaukee, it's been 40 plus years. So, I like thinking of those places that haven't really had a lot of success lately, and how cool it would be if they did. So that's
Yeah,
what I'm looking forward to.
I agree with you, Tyler. We appreciate you being with us here on Sportsnaut.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott.